So we're drinking at the place where the Founding Fathers used to drink. If you remember the Hamilton musical, The Story of Tonight, this is where it takes place. Now here, I'm with a fellow New York City vlogger. HereBeBarr is your YouTube channel name. You're John. And the cool thing I love about your channel is that you do really interesting tips and tricks about New York City. Very informational, very practical. And also you have a very kind of local, down-to-earth experience of the city.
Appreciate it.
So tell us a little bit about what you do, how long you've been vlogging for.
Okay, so I started vlogging in May 2016. And I do some similar things to you. Obviously, I like to show people around attractions that they might not normally find. But I also do lots of food videos, lots of tips videos for tourists, what scams to avoid, what are the biggest tourist traps. I love doing neighborhood guides. I mean, we just filmed a video. I love getting people like you on my videos to teach me new things. So I'm kind of all over the place. But if I'm bringing value to the audience, if they're learning something new from my channel about New York City or travel, I'm happy.
Yeah, I mean, and you do also neighborhood guides as well. So you've done like Park Slope, you've done a few other places.
I've done a lot. Yeah. I've done a lot of the big neighborhoods in Manhattan. We've done Harlem, Washington Heights. I've done my own neighborhood, Greenwich Village, East Village, Lower East Side, Dumbo, Williamsburg. A lot of the big touristy neighborhoods I've done, Times Square. So yeah, I love showing people neighborhoods. And the good thing about New York is there are so many neighborhoods, you can never get bored. There's always something new to discover.
Yeah, you can never get bored. So here you're right now with two New York City experts. So feel free to ask anything to John about either being a New York City vlogger or about New York City. Any tips and tricks. You've already heard my perspective 1,000 times, so let's get another different perspective. But before we continue the conversation, let me show you where we're located. We are in Fraunces Tavern. So Fraunces Tavern on Broad Street. And the historic tavern has outdoor seating now. And right by Fraunces Tavern is the Porterhouse Bar. And they have their own microbrewery. So I'm drinking an oyster stout, and you're drinking...
I'm drinking a Porterhouse Pilsner. I'm a big Pilsner fan, Czech beer, German beer.
It is, yeah, it's very good. What do you think of the beer?
It's good. I mean, it's nice for a day like today where... It's pretty warm out. We were just doing 2 separate videos for the last 5 hours. So to end the video at this historical tavern with a beer with you is perfect.
Mm-hmm. I've always wanted to end a live video with a beer, a vlog.
I do it often.
Okay.
When I can bring a beer into a video, it is always at the end because I'm always working my way up to that beer.
So like the interesting thing is, and I'll read the comments soon. Let us know if you follow HereBeBarr. And if you don't, let us know if you have any questions for a New York City vlogger. The interesting thing is you do a lot of things to do in New York. What's your favorite things to do here in this neighborhood? We're in the financial district in Lower Manhattan.
I would say, for one, any of the ferries down here are an excellent choice. I mean, if it's your first time in New York, Staten Island Ferry. If you've been in New York for a while, or if you want to see something different in the summer, Governor's Island, literally like a 2-minute walk to take the ferry right there. An amazing place to escape. I also like walking through Stone Street, have a beer at Ulysses. I like Fraunces Tavern here. I love the museum upstairs. I like the interior. I also like the Elevated Acre, although we were just joking about this, how it's gotten a lot of exposure on TikTok and now a lot of people are hanging out there.
Yeah.
But it's this fairly hidden park in the financial district that you can bring lunch to, and you feel like you have the whole park to yourself, and it's this little hidden oasis between the buildings.
It almost feels like a place that only New Yorkers really know about, which is really awesome. I've barely seen tourists there.
Rarely.
So, okay, let's read the comments. So, Rebecca says, "Oh my God, it's so great to see you guys together. I knew there was people who followed both of us." Hello, Rebecca. Ian, great to see 2 excellent New York ambassadors. Oh, Ian, I'm glad you also follow HereBe. Carol says, "Awesome idea, guys. Of course we follow HereBeBarr. One of the best New York City vloggers, along with Sarah Funk and Jennifer Bryant."
I recognize Carol. How are you?
Do all you guys want to see a mega collaboration with all the top New York City YouTubers? 6 New York City YouTubers in one video?
Sounds pretty crazy. I don't know if YouTube could handle that. It might be too much. Might be a little too much energy.
Maybe one day. For beer, you should visit Torst in Greenpoint. Evil Twin in Ridgewood, says Carol, and Other Half Brewery.
I've been to Evil Twin, excellent brewery. I was there. I wasn't filming, but Jacob Carlson, our mutual friend, he took me there. It's right on the border of Bushwick. Excellent beer.
So speaking of beer, like what other places would you recommend?
I like.
What's the hotspot? What's the hotspot area?
I mean, I live in Greenwich Village, so I am very biased to my home area. I like Peculiar Pub. I've showed them in multiple videos because they have a really big international beer selection. You know, I love traveling. You love traveling.
Yeah.
I mean, just the other day I was there, and for $6, I was drinking a Cosqueña Golden Lager from Peru. They also have this golden beer from Iceland that I'm a big fan of. So that's like my go-to bar if I just want to drink beer. My interests in nightlife have changed a bit as I've maybe gotten older, gotten married. I mean, I always loved going out on the Lower East Side just for partying. But if we're just talking about purely beer, where else do I like? There's also in Queens, Long Island City's got some good breweries there.
They do, and they brew their beers within the neighborhood.
Yes. Yeah. And also, the name is slipping me, but there's a great Czech restaurant which is connected to the Czech consul on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. And guys, you can just look up like Czech restaurant.
Yes.
They served me one of the best pilsners I've ever had in the United States. Like, it tasted almost the same as when I was in Prague. So I will say that spot, for if you're a pilsner fan, you've got to go there.
And I think they have a rooftop as well.
I've never been to the rooftop, but
they do.
And their food is so good. It's called like Svichkova. I forgot the name, but it's really good Czech food. So good Czech food, good Czech beer. And then there's another spot. It's called Bureaucracy, also in Queens.
Great name.
It's called Bureaucracy. They're run by Czechs. They have some specially imported beer that only a few different breweries or restaurants in New York City have access to. So I did a whole video about this a while ago. If you look up like HereBeBarr best beer, you'll see these places.
Oh, that's amazing. And this is why you should follow HereBeBarr's channel. Like, you just dropped a whole lot of knowledge bombs.
Oh, man. You know way more than me. I'm going to leave it at that, but I appreciate that. Coming from you, that means a lot.
Well, like, the thing is, I love food, and I love drinks, and I love history, but I don't do that many things. I love just walking. So it's cool that you like sit down and go to these places.
Yeah, I'm all about doing things, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I love walking too.
Yeah.
I'm all about walking, but I feel like a lot of my New York City experience is like discovering new places, like especially restaurants, and I love like little hole in the wall places to eat, little speakeasy bars. I'm not so much into the luxury rooftops. I'll do that from time to time, but there's this little bar on McDougal that's obviously not open now. It's called Rabbits, and you wouldn't know it was there unless you went down the little steps, and it's just hidden amongst all these fratty bars in McDougal Street, and they have some amazing Belgian and German beers on tap. It's incredible, the quality of beers. It's a little dark place, great date spot, I would say. If you want to impress your date, take her to, I think it's called Rabbits. Look that up in McDougal when New York reopens indoor dining.
So speaking of dating, how is it being a New Yorker, single versus married? Because you experienced both.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like New York is one of those cities where you could have an amazing time being single or being married. You know, if you're single, I think there's certain neighborhoods that would appeal to you more. And that may be one of the reasons that I could be leaving Greenwich Village, because I love it, but there's also a lot of sacrifices you have to make to be in like the heart of the action. Your apartment is likely to be expensive and very small. I could get an apartment in Park Slope, Brooklyn, 3 times the size of my current apartment for the same price.
Interesting.
So I would say that being single, New York is just, it's like a playground as far as the ability to date. If you want to date a lot of people, you know, now my twin brother and a lot of my friends are single. I can't speak to the current situation, but when I was single, you know, whoever you want to date is here. If you want to date a guy or girl who's in a certain industry, or they're artistic, or they're international, you could find anybody here. And like, you could do cheap dates. You could do dates that cost you nothing. You could go to the most expensive restaurants ever. So there's just like, there's so many places to go to meet people, bars, clubs, outdoor festivals. But then being married, there's a lot of stuff I like doing too. There's a lot of things that appeal to married people, like these cool restaurants, or going for walks, as you said, or going for a nice little boat ride, or going to some of these islands and having a picnic. So I think like you could make the best of it no matter what your marital status is here.
Have you started doing different things since you were married in New York?
I feel like I've been doing a lot more Netflix and Amazon Prime nights. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, like out in the city.
Yeah, I know what you meant. But that's the actual truth. I'm going out less. It's just, I feel like, I'll tell you what, I feel like being married, we go out more early.
Oh, interesting.
We're more likely to have beer at 8 o'clock and go home at 10. I sound like an old man now.
So not Union Pool at 1 a.m.
No. I can't even remember the last time I was out past midnight. Now, the pandemic hasn't helped.
Yeah.
I was out past 10 o'clock the other day, and I'm like, this is late for me. Wow. I would just say I have more of a daytime focus. I think when I was single, I was home a lot more during the day, and then I wouldn't go out till 10 or 11 o'clock to a friend's apartment to like have a pre-drink, and then hit the bars, go to Lower East Side, go to the East Village, hit up my area until like 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. So I think my schedule's changed, my priorities have changed, my love for the city hasn't changed.
That's fascinating because I've noticed like I'm single myself, but just observing the city, I've noticed there's areas that's more attractive to couples, especially restaurants like brunch places.
Yes.
Yeah. And sometimes I find myself, because I love brunch, I sometimes find myself surrounded by couples.
Oh my
in some of
God,
these
yes.
restaurants.
All couples. But then again, there's actually some brunch places near me where I'll say like you'll find like the stereotypical like group of 8 girls drinking mimosas. That's another common thing. But you also have like single people, and I used to go out with my friends to brunch when I was single. Brunch is for everybody.
And okay, so let's read the comments.
Sure.
Darla says single people can have picnics too.
Yeah, single people can have picnics too. Excuse me.
John asked what scams to avoid in New York. So give us
we've got tons of.
Give us the 2 main ones around Times Square.
The big 2 in Times Square would be the CD guys who will hand you a CD, and then once they hand you it, due to the what we call law of reciprocity, they're expecting you to give them a tip, or they'll sign your name. They'll ask you what's your name. Say, hey, I'm John. Okay, John, here's your CD. I just signed it. You got to give me a donation. And a lot of times these CDs don't even have any music on them. So that's one. The other issue people run into a lot is they'll take a picture with those mascots. And I've heard
don't
stories,
point the camera towards them.
If like the Statue of Liberty guy sees you pointing a camera, he's gonna try to charge you money. If I'm filming them for a video, I am far away. I'm not letting them see me film them. So if you want to pose with them, maybe ask them how much money they want, but even then they might still ask for more money. It happened to me in Morocco. Long story. We're not gonna talk about my Marrakesh scam. But anyway, those are the big 2 ones in Times Square.
And you can go to his channel, HereBeBarr, excuse me, to see much more in depth those scams.
I have 2 different scam videos about New York,
Ian says he supports both of us on Patreon.
Thank you, Ian.
So Ian, this video is sponsored by you, technically. Thank you so much. Mike says, thank you so much for featuring James and Carla. I featured them too about 3 years ago in the East Village, so it's so awesome that
they're amazing.
They
They, like you, deserve a lot of subscribers. So yes, anyone watching, check out James and Carla for sure.
Mauro, hello Miguel from Mexico. Carol says with Action Kid we should do a mega collaboration.
Oh, for sure.
Rebecca says that would be awesome. Extra stars for you and your friend. Oh, cool, Laurie. Thank you. Where's the mask? So we're pretty far away from everyone. Also, we're outdoors.
We're also drinking. We can't drink.
We're outdoors. It's a bit hard. It's a bit hard. We could get those zip-up masks. But,
I suppose.
We were wearing a mask while we were in more crowded areas, walking around. So feel free to ask any questions to a amazing New Yorker. Give me a whiskey sour, says Jackie. Okay, Jackie. Whiskey sour, please. And I could do with a good beer now. And day drinking is awesome. Got to be there early, but you don't feel as bad as the next day. Indeed, yeah. One thing I noticed with drinking culture, here in New York City, people usually don't drink that much water with their beer. But you go to Europe, people love drinking their beer with a bunch of water.
You know what I will say about the New York City nightlife culture? Like I don't know if I want to pick like any particular country in Europe. Oh, we're good.
Oh, we're good. Thank you.
But maybe I'll just say certain parts of like Eastern Europe and Scandinavia. When you go out at night, people get extremely intoxicated. You see that in New York, but I don't think most people go out to get trashed. Like I think most people can behave themselves pretty well here. And actually something that my brother pointed out once is, you go to certain countries, I don't know, like the UK, Australia, you see a lot more fighting at bars. I rarely ever see fights at bars in New York. Rarely ever.
Well, it depends on what neighborhood.
Depends on neighborhood, maybe. But from where I went, I rarely ever saw it.
Speaking of which, you're originally from New Jersey.
Yeah.
the New Jersey crowd in bars like the East Village is very different in terms of drinking than other areas.
What's the Jersey stereotype? Like Jaeger bombs?
Yeah. Well, also more fights. That's what I've encountered.
Yeah, probably more fighting going on in Jersey. But while I love New Jersey and I support my home state, and I grew up in Fair Lawn, I would say that moving to New York is just a better experience for me, just because you have more access to the world here. I feel like while New Jersey is very open-minded, you move to New York City and your friend group could be from all over the place. Unless maybe you're living in Hoboken or Jersey City, you go to your average spot in New Jersey, nothing wrong with this, but your neighbors probably grew up within like 20 or 30 minutes of there. So you just get a little bit less diverse, not diversity, but less diverse experiences in their lives. I feel like in New York, on any given day, you can just meet so many interesting people with so many interesting backgrounds.
Well, growing up in New Jersey, did you usually come to New York City?
I mean, I didn't go a ton when I was younger. I would go a few times a year. I think when I graduated college, I went to New York a lot on weekends. That's how I really discovered the city, more so at night. And that's how I learned New York. I knew the East Village, I knew the Lower East Side, I knew the Upper West Side, I knew McDougal just from the nightlife and the bars and the restaurants. That's how I first really discovered New York. I wasn't really coming in during the day to explore. I was going to party. But it's completely different from my experience now, where I'm doing everything during the day and exploring and trying to help people and myself learn stuff. So my experience has changed, but I actually really got into New York from the nightlife perspective.
Yeah, of course. I mean, same thing with me in my early 20s. We would go partying in Bushwick loft parties. And like Union Pool, which was a very popular hangout also, still is. Jackie, who's my friend, this is John Barr, runs HereBeBarr YouTube channel. Great YouTube channel about New York City pro tips. George asked if we're brothers. No, we're not brothers.
Brothers from another mother.
But we are part of the brotherhood of New York City YouTubers.
Yeah.
I mean brotherhood in a non-gendered sense.
Yes.
Mary says different age groups drink differently. So what's your opinion on the hangouts for different age groups here in New York City?
You know what I will say, and again, nothing against anybody who's over 40 or over 50 watching this, but I always felt like in, let's say, New Jersey, where I grew up, and I'm not trying to bash New Jersey, but I'll say something that in the more localized areas, if you're older and you go to a bar and it's all young people will look at you funny. I feel like in New York, people just don't care.
No.
If I'm at a bar in New York and there's a couple that's 70 years old to my left, I think that's awesome. I don't care. I just feel like no one's judgmental here about your age. You could go to any bar and no one is going to say a word here.
Yeah, I often encounter that, especially in an area like Williamsburg, which tends to be people between 20 and 40. But you often see some older couples or older people hang out in these bars or restaurants, and it's normal.
I mean, I have friends who are in their 40s and they're single in New York and having a great time. Yeah. And I don't know if there's a ton of cities out there where people would want to live, being 40s or 50s and single and having a blast, and nobody cares and no one's judgmental here. That's one of the best things about New York City, in my opinion, is it's so big that you can be whoever you want to be, and that's perfectly fine.
You can, yeah. Can. So let's see. I love John's video, says Shadows.
Thank you.
Interceptor. Hello, Johan, Jackie. The same as England people. Stacia says in England they also drink too much late at night and then fight their way home.
It's not just England. I've seen it in Iceland. I've seen it all over. It's there's just some countries where drinking heavily is very ingrained in the youth culture. It's a thing. So
John asks, does Andrew Cuomo inspire you? So I don't talk about politics on this broadcast, but as a person, politics aside, what do you think of Andrew Cuomo? He's a very typical New Yorker as well.
I'm not going to get too deep into this. I like some of the things he's done. I don't like everything he's done. I also don't really want to comment on politics too much, but I think there is something to be said about the low COVID rate in the city. Yeah. I think there's definitely... I think they took it very seriously when they needed to, and that I would personally like to see indoor dining come back at 50%. I've talked to some restaurant owners. I know that Governor Cuomo is very big on that. I'm sure or maybe if he's watching this, he could be a fan of the Urbanist, we don't know. That's something I disagree on. I think that come October, come November, we need to see indoor dining, or some of these restaurants aren't going to survive. So that's my big issue right now with Cuomo. But
So speaking of COVID, politics aside, what do you think has to change for to New York City to get back?
truthfully, I just don't know if the city is going to bounce back 100% till there's a vaccine. Till we can have mass tourism again. I think there's a lot of businesses, especially neighborhoods like this, that would be really happy to have tourists from all over the world coming, because this is an area, downtown Manhattan, a lot of historical sites. I think that tourism would help revitalize a lot of these businesses where it's been slow. That's one thing. But, you know, there's still going to be a lot of empty office spaces with all of the companies that are now doing work from home, you know, Zoom offices. I don't know if New York is going to get back to where it really was for a while, but I think once we have a vaccine in place and the young go-getters are going to want to come back here to have like the New York City experience and tourism opens again, I think then we're going to see a lot of changes. I think that's when it's going to start, but it's not going to happen until next year.
Yeah, no, I hope at least some of the restaurants and coffee shops survive.
It's very sad. Too many are closing right now.
And we just did a bagel video as well, and one of the shops really needs some help, so I'll be sure to put a star to their name, so you be sure to visit them. So we'll stay on for 5 more minutes, ask any questions from a New York local. Been here for how many years?
It'll be 9 years this November.
9 years. 9 years here in New York City, and you grew up right next to New York City as well. People get so slashed in London. I spent my 4 years in high school in New Jersey, and then I escaped to Brooklyn, says George. How do you feel about coming here to New York from Jersey?
I mean, I support New Jersey, but I don't want to live there.
In Iceland, the teens use alcohol-soaked tampons to get drunk fast. Interesting, Rich.
Yeah,
Interesting
Iceland
fact.
is another story. Iceland, man, they take drinking to another level.
They have to recoup their investments. Too many billions. Oh yeah. Do you think the off and on and off Broadway theaters will be able to open up again? So you have professional expertise here in terms of shows.
In terms of
tickets and shows.
I will say, I actually saw an interview with the Broadway League president, and she was saying that minimum January, but here's the problem. She said that if Broadway was to reopen at 50%, the shows would lose money. And here's the second problem. The biggest demographic for Broadway shows is older people. It's just a fact. You go to any Broadway show, big majority of the audience is going to be 60, 70 plus.
And usually from outside.
Yes, and usually from somewhere else. So that's a very high-risk group for COVID. That's why I don't see Broadway coming back until there's a vaccine. I could have proven wrong, but I just don't know if it's worth the risk for them.
Or if they at least make it somewhat cheaper, so younger people could go.
I have a thought. You know, maybe if they did something like Broadway and Central Park, outside, social distancing, that's possible. But inside of a small theater, unless new technology comes around, I don't know how you would do it.
Well, from a historical perspective, Broadway theaters in the summer used to be on rooftops. So they had rooftop shows.
That would be cool if they redid that.
They got to bring that back, I think. So Carol, thank you for asking that question again. Sorry I missed it the first time. Your favorite novel connected to New York City?
That's a good question. Oof.
And I think she's specifically asking fiction.
Fiction?
Yeah.
Gotta think about this. You want to go first?
So for me, I don't read too much fiction.
I was gonna say I don't read a lot of fiction. I have New York movies, but
I would say for TV, which is based on the novels, Bored to Death on HBO. It had 2 seasons. It was like a neo-noir, hipster noir show about New York City, and it was based on the book.
I just want to go with movie because I'm not such a big fictional, like a novel person. I did a whole video about this. I like Goodfellas for all of the scenes in Queens. I also like Escape from New York, even though it was not filmed in New York except for Liberty Island, which technically is not New York City. It presents New York in this crazy light of like this post-apocalyptic New York that it becomes a prison. And I thought that the way they were closing it off when COVID hit was so similar. I thought it was freaky. That is one of my favorites. And as another movie with New York, I'm trying to think what else I like. I mean, Home Alone 2 is so cheesy, but they make New York look so cool in that movie.
They make it look magical, especially with the
From the
Central
eyes of
Park
a
scenes.
kid, yeah.
And then also I love Cloverfield, just because
Yeah, oh yeah.
it's New York in a very different light. And MJ is here. Mary Jane. So Mary Jane has also collaborated with John.
Wait, is she actually in the chat, someone said?
Yeah, is she in the chat? Sorry if I haven't seen her comment.
Missed her. There she is.
Oh, there she is. So good to see finally you two together. Question.
What's up, Mary Jane?
Why do you think that New York City has managed to move so many activities outside, but no shows or concerts? So why do you think shows or concerts haven't gone outside?
My theory, although I don't know if I have any scientific basis on this, I feel like they're afraid with shows that people are going to be too close together.
Yeah.
That especially music, people want to dance, people want to be up right next to each other. I mean, I saw they were trying some socially distant shows around the U.S. I honestly don't know. I think they could try it. I think that there could be a way to do it. But I don't think they want to risk it.
I think if it's calmer music, or like the brass bands I showed, or if it's classical, or if it's like world music or jazz, I think it could work. I think the fear is there's a lot of perspiration when you start playing some good danceable music.
Yeah.
And you'll notice the humidity. I've been to Governor's Ball many times.
Oh, we had a rough July too.
And you'll notice the humidity in an outdoor space, so I think they're afraid of that.
So I think the issue is we're at a table right now drinking, and the closest I've seen to concerts is I've seen bands outside.
Yeah.
I was literally walking through Thompson Street in the Village yesterday. They had the restaurant Carbone, and they had 3 guys with guitars just playing outside. And I've seen them in other spots of the Village. But the issue with a concert is, how do you make sure people stay socially distanced? They're going to be moving a lot. At a table here, we're stuck here. Unless you have seats that are spread out, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So there is outdoor music happening. I will link a specific Instagram that has organized specific outdoor music.
What's it called,
I forgot what it's called, but they're associated with the Street Brass brand, which I featured in my last live video. And there's a woman who's organizing all these different...
I'm going to check this out. This sounds amazing.
Bands.
So they just play outside?
They just play outside. And the woman who's running it organizes like kind of this old school New York type of music. So brass, cabaret,
I'm in,
old school jazz.
I want to go.
Yeah. Please do, Ariel. And your favorite New York City sports team?
I guess in no particular order, New York Yankees, New York Knicks, New York Islanders, New York Jets, but I'm not following them that closely these days. I actually follow college football. I went to Rutgers. I'm a big Rutgers football fan. That's probably the team I support the most. So I still have my Jersey pride. But the Big Ten football season got canceled. But I do keep my eyes on the Yankees. I've always been a Yankees fan.
And Kay asked where we're sitting so close together. Well, Kay, it's the matter of video making. Otherwise, I would have to put the camera so far away.
Yeah, the lens is very narrow. So.
I can't read the comments, and that would be very tricky. So yeah, it's hard. But most of the time, we were pretty far apart. And drive-in movie theaters are the best thing to do now.
They're open outside of New York. No, they're open in Brooklyn, aren't they? I feel like there's a drive-in theater here, right?
It's called Rooftop Films, and it's in Industry City, or right by Industry City. So, final question is, for people who are coming to New York for the first time, what do you recommend them to do?
I mean, I would recommend getting all the super touristy stuff, like the Times Squares and the Staten Island Ferry, or going to the Statue of Liberty. Like, get that out of the way fast. Get that out of your system fast. And then watch Ariel's videos, or my videos, or the other New York YouTuber videos, and find some really cool hidden gems. Like, go to Jackson Heights, Queens. Go explore in Brooklyn. Get some pizza in Brooklyn. Do something that most of the other tourists aren't doing, and I promise you won't regret it.
Exactly. John, thank you so much for joining me today.
No problem, anytime.
If you want to see more of John's videos, go to HereBeBarr on YouTube. I'll write it down in the comments once again. Also, you'll see it in the description. And check out the upcoming video. I'll be featured on it as well. And he also did an amazing video recently about restaurants that need a little bit of help and hope during this COVID times. So thank you everyone so much for tuning in. Keep being awesome and always keep on exploring. Have a good day. And I always do a wave goodbye. So you want to join me over here? Bye everyone.